I'm down to watch this. It's a 1-minute clip by Yango. It's 18 likes, 19 dislikes. Now, I'll be real. It's already Yango, so that means I'm going to take this with a massive grain of salt because bro's a memer. I love him for that. But why Zenless Zone Zero fell off? I have actually a lot of interesting things to say about this, but this will definitely spark a discussion, I think, amongst my chat. Let's see here what he thinks. I want to read the comments after, too. We'll see whether I'm on the like or dislike side.
It's the character designs that annoyed me with that game.
Okay, well, already just fucking brain mistake. Okay, all right. It's not the characters. The character designs are fine.
When that game first came out, I felt like the character designs were really unique, right?
They still are.
Elle and Joe.
They're still great.
Tail.
They're still great.
The first characters were all cool. But I feel like then after a bit, they've just made I feel like they made fucking 8 big boob straight cell coded characters in a row.
Who cares?
All look similar. And
Nah.
I just kind of lost interest.
That's not the problem.
Terrible game for terrible people.
Okay. Okay. What a fucking terrible game for terrible people, he says, because the character's boobs are too big. Let's calm down, buddy. Okay? Let's calm down. It's not that big of a deal. Gooners exist. It doesn't matter. I'm going to let homeboy cook.
People bitching about Star Rail power creep. ZZZ has way more power creep.
No. ZZZ only has one character that's power creep, and that's Miyabi. And I'm going to be real. I do think Miyabi was a horrible choice. And that being said, when she came out, it was very fun, but I don't think it spells anything promising for the future of the game.
Unless I'm retarded, I feel like it's not even close. I feel like in ZZZ...
Now, HSR is far worse right now.
The newer characters were clearly better. And the game was new, too. But maybe it's just more noticeable since it's an action game. Whereas Star Rail, sure, there can be power creep here and there. But since it's turn-based, I don't know, maybe I just don't feel it as much. When I say Star Rail has a little power creep, I literally just mean I play anime mobile games a lot. And it's not as bad as most anime mobile games I play. Genuinely.
I don't know how he could possibly be saying that shit. Nah, I've probably played the most turn-based RPGs as anime turn-based combat style games. No, Honkai Star Rail got the most out of hand, the quickest out of pretty much any of them that I've played. Summoner's Wars remained pseudo-balanced for the 10 years that I played, or not 10 years, the 10 years that it's existed. Newer units are still frequently used in endgame teams. Even 3 stars can clear all content. The only time it ever gets really bad is on the ladder, but other than that, pretty much everything's viable to beat everything. Yeah, nah, I think that's just a horrendous take. Maybe he just got unlucky by playing some more power creep forward turn-based RPGs. HSR got really bad really quick.
More bored of Star Rail now. Obviously the game's never as fun as when it's first out.
Of course.
At this point, I don't really give a fuck if they release some.
But that being said, people will say, well, obviously every single gacha game isn't as fun as when it first released. Well, that's just simply not true. Right? Let's just take Wuthering Waves, for example. Wuthering Waves is now more fun at 2.0 than it was on launch. And I think we'd all universally agree with that. They did an amazing reimagination of the game. And that instills hope for me for every future update, as well as 2.1's fishing event was at least, for me, 3 days of pure fun, which I really enjoyed. That's pretty much all I'm asking for. Just give me a reason to revisit the game every 6 weeks. That's pretty much it. And I thought it was great, to be honest.
Memes shit. That's kind of where I'm at. It's global passives. Let's fucking do it.
Okay, now I'm going to read these comments, and then I'm going to tell you guys why ZZ actually fell off. And you're the one playing the most boring gacha game of all time. No, Girls from Line 2's fine. 0 points, El Clickbait just bad. I got baited by thumbnail, this dog shit. Power creep is mute since free to play over PvP restrictions. So why did it fell off? You're not explaining the video. Nice rage bait vid. You have your opinion, I have mine, but goddamn, yours is just trash. You're going to get views for rage bait. This video is just rage bait. Okay, let me tell you why Zenless Zone Zero actually fell off. Okay, so I'm going to speak in absolutes as much as I possibly can. Okay? I can provide proof of almost everything that I've saying in some essence. Obviously, I can't show exact numbers because I don't have the raw data from the company. However, I don't think it would be skewed when compared to its own launch. So I'm going to go over as much objective things as I possibly can to explain what went wrong with Zenless Zone Zero. I encourage other creators to feel free to react to this. I would love to know other people's opinions on this. But yeah, we're going to try to keep this pretty absolute. Just give me a second to compile some data. Okay, so I first want to start off with Google Trends. Now, this is something that a lot of people can take with a grain of salt because all this does is tell you how many times people Googled the name. Okay? Obviously, this does not indicate any direct numbers of player count whatsoever. We will never have those numbers. But as far as the general interest of the worldwide population, due to Google Trends, it is shown that Zenless Zone Zero had about 25% of the interest that Genshin Impact had, and 50% of the interest that Honkai Star Rail had. Now, currently, in today's climate, in the past, let's say, 90 days, Zenless Zone Zero is actually overtaking Honkai Star Rail a little bit, but that's because a new version update just dropped. And generally, ZZZ and HSR are pretty around the same, with ZZZ being a little bit lower, with Genshin completely obliterating both of them. Now, all that is how many people are looking up the game name. Now, just being real, speaking of other raw numbers, Zenless, and I'm just saying this because it's the truth, Google Trends also counts how many people are looking up porn, okay? And you can take this as a joke, but I mean it. Porn does keep games relevant. And R34, Zenless Zone Zero, in a quarter of the time of Honkai Star Rail, has already overtaken Honkai Star Rail in terms of how much porn has been made of the game. This game is very Gooner forward, and that does drive a lot of community engagement towards finding the general interest online. But in terms of launch size, Zenless Zone Zero has been the lowest. The other big issue that Zenless Zone Zero currently has is, of all the game's issues on launch, Zenless Zone Zero had the largest ones. The TVs really slowed their momentum, as well as the combat system feeling clunky due to the fact that you only get one ult per character. It made a lot of people turned off from the combat as a whole, as well as also having an alternative in the form of Wuthering Waves, where pretty much everything that Hoyoverse wanted to make with Zenless Zone Zero, Wuthering Waves already enveloped the entire thing. Yeah, that is the game with the closest direct competitor, right? Like Genshin and Zenless are both competing with Wuthering Waves, and I'm going to be real, Wuthering Waves completely obliterated Zenless Zone Zero. It just fucking did. Like, it shit on it very hard. But it is what it is. Another thing to note, and every creator who's reacting this, I would love to know your opinion. However, based on my general interest, or my general attention to detail on engagement and analytics, is Zenless Zone Zero performs the worst on YouTube and Twitch. It is the one that the least people watch in terms of developer live streams, in terms of guides, in terms of gameplay, in terms of memes. Pretty much barely any people are going to watch this when in comparison to Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact. And why is that? I could sit here and tell you it's because the combat isn't as good. I could sit here and tell you it's because the story isn't as good. I could sit here and tell you it's because people just aren't that interested. But to be completely honest, and I'm just going to be real, I just think it's luck. Yeah, I think it's luck. I think Wuthering Waves already filled the niche that Zenless Zone Zero was attempting to fill. And so I just think that people just aren't as interested because I think they get what they want from other games. And there's not really a reason to play Zenless Zone Zero for a lot of players of the current day and age. And the biggest issue that I currently really believe in is Zenless Zone Zero is meant to be played casually from time to time, but the problem is that getting back into Zenless Zone Zero is very hard due to the fact that the UI is very confusing. And if you're a casual player like myself that likes to bounce in and out of the game, you come back and the game feels very odd. You don't really know what to do. There's tons of event pings. You don't really know where to go. The naming convention for things doesn't really make that much sense. And the UI is a large factor in where if you play the game for a long time, you're really going to like it. But if you're a casual, you're not going to know the difference between all of the menus whenever you log on. And it's a little bit jarring, to say the least. I understand what they were going for in terms of Persona, but Persona was a much smaller, much more compact game, whereas Zenless Zone Zero is constantly evolving to where every update it becomes a little bit more convoluted because you ask yourself, was it New Eridu 1, or was it Station 1 floor, or was it Stage 2 floor? And I went there and that's not it. Wait, this is the new town. How do I get back to the old town? And a lot of people are actually having that issue. And I think the thing that really blows about Zenless Zone Zero is that I do actually think it's a very good game. But I think Well, I'm always going to jerk off to the game. I'm going to be real. The porn is crazy. Shuon's ass and titties are crazy, right? I will always love it. But even I'm having a hard time playing with it because I go in and I feel like an old guy. But I don't think you can really deny that Zenless Zone Zero is pretty much the worst performing gacha of the big four right now. It doesn't really have its own identity. And I do think it is kind of struggling to stand out from the crowd. But I would love to know y'all's opinion on why you think Zenless Zone Zero didn't do as good as it could. However, I do have high hopes for Zenless Zone Zero 2.0. I know faith in Hoyoverse is at an all-time low right now, with Genshin Impact being in the worst state it's ever been right now, as well as HSR pretty much going off the deep end, which we're all waiting with our fingers crossed, holding our breath, hoping to God 3.2 isn't a disaster. And the more and more I hear about it, the more and more it gets. Faith in the company is at an all-time low right now. And there's so many excuses, it's kind of hard to pin down the straw that broke the camel's back. Leave a comment, let me know what you think, how you feel about gacha games and Zenless Zone Zero and Hawkeye Star right now. Appreciate y'all watching.